Hello everybody, welcome back. Sunday, let's have a look at the market and have a little think about what the next short-term plan of action will be. So yesterday I was saying how I am kind of anticipating a potential, dump, correction, pullback, whatever you call it for Bitcoin, right? But the Bitcoin dominance remains relatively uptrending, definitely, which is why we took a larger Bitcoin position a few weeks ago. The royal we being me. But when we see this, we are getting these micro rotations, and it's very easy to see how we could play this on a daily chart. So we go all the way up outside of a Bollinger Band, straight back down towards the 10. All the way back outside the top of the Bollinger Band, straight back down towards the 10. All the way out, not quite towards the Bollinger Band, but we are approaching a 200 exponential moving average, which usually is a resistance or a support depending on your relationship to it, whether you're below it or above it. So I would expect a decent rejection from there. Again, this is just a daily, and I say just a daily because we focus mostly on the weekly for the larger rotation. But it does look like there's likely to be a decent pullback on the Bitcoin dominance at that level. Now, when we're talking about Bitcoin dominance, it doesn't mean necessarily that Bitcoin goes up and the dominance goes up with it. It could mean that the market comes down, and as alts usually amplify any kind of downtrend of Bitcoin, the dominance chart would go up as a matter of default. So Bitcoin dominance can go up, and often does. We can just remind ourselves of what happened in a bear market. This Bitcoin dominance goes up massively in a bear market as altcoins basically crumble into dust. This next big stab up towards the 200 exponential there could easily happen on a pullback, and that pullback would be an interesting proposition to make on any kind of altcoin chart in the short term, obviously, because I am very much more bullish on this chart than probably I need to be. It's if anything that getting into a Bitcoin position or a larger Bitcoin position when we're down at these low levels is more of a protective stance, like a hedge against the market going down. I don't want to lose more than I necessarily need to lose. There might be. We are getting micro rotations on this trend up, but I think that a relatively large one would be from here to probably the 10 exponential, maybe all the way down to to these levels here. So we could be talking about between a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8% move down on the Bitcoin dominance if and when, well, it was more or less when, but I'd probably say if and when we touch this level. The dominance chart could obviously spike above here, but a rejection I think is relatively likely from here, and then the uptrend will remain, I think. So long as we're above the 20 weekly, which is 44, more or less 44.5% dominance, the uptrend I think is still going to gain ground. If we break down below there, the party remains. So it's a matter of being careful and also, taking on a bit more risk than you might want to. And again, it's up to you if you do that. I'm not a financial advisor, but I am toying with the idea of actually playing this next rotation, just for what would maybe just a couple of days, maybe a day or a few days worth of price action. So we're going to have a look at some charts just very briefly, and these are just examples. There's many charts to choose from, but here's a few examples of one. So we're looking at Bitcoin here being relatively overextended. For what it's worth, it can obviously go higher. 91 read on the money flow index there, which is fine. Catching a nice bounce at the top of this, this breakout territory. So we could look to break out from this zone before we pull back. Very strong to be able to catch a bounce from here. We've done it 2 days in a row now, so it's looking pretty good. I have to say, it's definitely looking pretty bullish still for Bitcoin. However, it's like playing a game of Jenga. It gets more deadly the higher you go, because if it doesn't have a pullback or a consolidation after a large uptrend, which this has been, since we bounced from that accumulation zone area, even from where we are at right now, just short of 50%, almost 55% from bottom to top. So that's been a fair old move for our for the Big Daddy Bitcoin, and a pullback I think is required, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be at all. It can continue to go up. This is the nature of crypto. We saw the same kind of thing on the last breakout, the major breakout from September to December. There was portions of this where it just continued to go before there was a breakdown, not even a breakdown, but a sizable pullback, floating outside of Bollinger Bands, away from moving averages, day after day after day, and then finally you do get your pullbacks. But none of these areas have been as high on the money flow index as this area has. It's cooled down a little bit recently, which is good. But you know, I've showed this before. You know, we are at what, 91 now, which is still pretty high, obviously. But the highest we've ever been was all the way back down around here, basically 2017. It's the highest it's ever been. Second to that, this was the highest it's been other than that. So it's a very high read on a daily. But again, it's only a daily, so a pullback isn't a bear market. It's just a pullback. But it's, you know, that's my anticipation, waiting for that pullback. So if we transfer that understanding or that expectation, whether it happens or not, and we think about what could happen to altcoins, and then we think about what could happen to the Bitcoin dominance chart, which would be it would spike up to those levels, you know, the 200 exponential, maybe a little higher, and that could be an entry point for what would be not oversold but relatively low altcoins. So some of them are at and look good versus Bitcoin. Some of them look pretty awful versus Bitcoin, but are coming down to possibly historical resistances. So we'll have a look at one which is always a bit of a rubbish chart to look at, but it's worth thinking of, which is XVG. Now, I'm not saying that these altcoins that I'm showing you now are going to move, you know, when it comes down to these levels, but it could move if it came down to these levels. So we've got an area down here which is quite close to where we are, roughly speaking, basically around 37 sats, you know, the upper 30 sat zone, where we could find a bottom and a decent bounce from. Now, XVG is pretty lame, but it's a low sat coin. It doesn't trade extremely high, but if it did move, it would move, you know, I would be expecting, you know, 20, 25, 30, 40 maybe % move on a bottom bounce, especially if the Bitcoin dominance chart does get particularly toppy around those levels in the short term. We do look to pull back between 4 and 7%. Then everything should catch a bid, and things like this will probably do that. Now, this coin in itself, this chart on its own, doesn't really show any signs of strength right now. We are specifically thinking about bottoms. That's all we are really thinking of. There's really nothing about it which is endearing in any way, but it's just an example of something that's coming down to a historical low versus Bitcoin, that would be. Algorand on the daily looks slightly better, because if we think about its relationship to the moving averages at the moment, we are already testing these low levels, the bottom of the Bollinger Band, the 200 exponential, the 200 simple, all down here at 2,600 and, well, 2,700 more or less. So yeah, a stab down could easily bring Algorand down to those levels and then bounce from there. We've been consolidating from the last big move up, so this is one idea that's different to the other one. This is a bullish looking chart that's consolidating versus Bitcoin, which then, in the face of a Bitcoin dominance reversal, just a short-term pullback, could end up breaking out of this chart and going doing very nicely. XRP breaking down, death cross incoming, no big deal. We're coming down to a historical level of support just in the short term, since since the spring. Big move up, consolidation, bounce. There has been moments where we've closed below there, but generally speaking, this area here, which is about 1,750 sats, could offer a bouncy opportunity. And again, we were looking at XRP on Tether. Doesn't look too bad. It's a very slow and weak, but consistent uptrend still, so there is a chance that it will bounce from here. And finally, we have XVG. Now, all my indicators have actually just gone recently. How did we map this one out in the past? I suppose we could think about it like this. And we are still pretty much within the pitchfork tool. It's very crude there, but it is pretty much within the pitchfork tool. We are on the center of this Bollinger Band, which is 8,696 sats. I know that's not the case, but I'm just reading the numbers here so you can see what I'm saying there. And the bottom of the pitchfork is down here, 8,000 sats. I know I get criticised for calling it 8,000, but that is 8,000. I know it's not, but it is. So that's the figure that we'll be looking for. You know what I'm talking about here. And a pullback down to that level would likely be the bottom call for VRA versus Bitcoin. So looking for another aggressive bounce from the bottom level of the pitchfork, also supported with the green 50 exponential, the green cloud, and the 50 moving average, all coming in at that area as well. That's to say that if we don't bounce from this very moment right now. So there's a lot of opportunity in there in the face of what I think is likely to be a pullback, and with that pullback should give dominance the next big push up to a major level of resistance where, you know, let's face it, you know, dominance could break down from here. It doesn't have to go up further. It could break down from here. That's the hopium every altcoin holder wants to hear right now. And I'm bullish on the market in general. We look at the total market cap, including or excluding Bitcoin. They're both extremely bullish. They've both got long-term continuation trends on them. They both look awesome. We're just trying to make the most of a rotation, and if there's micro rotations like we've seen thus far in this uptrend, which clearly is an uptrend at this stage now, then yeah, why not try and make the most of what would be an obvious decision, which would be to alternate from a Bitcoin position, even if it's just a small portion, like 25% of your Bitcoin, into what you think is the most appropriate altcoin position. Again, those are just examples I put out there. They're not going to be the best. They're not going to be anything special. So don't take my examples as the holy grail. It's not the case. I literally just brought them up randomly because I know those coins, and I recognise that they show different entry points on what could be this next situation that's brewing over the next week. So yeah, it's worth thinking about. Definitely worth thinking about. Micro rotations definitely seem to be a part of this uptrend so far. I always want to go for the larger rotation, like these ones. These are epic, and obviously I'm looking for a larger rotation down here, which is why I moved into a larger Bitcoin position. But I am now not just toying, but strongly considering making that move as and when it takes place. As for the altcoins that I choose, well, I'll keep those to myself. But you can see what I'm coming from, where I'm going. I said on the live stream last night that it's going to get to a stage in the market now where things are going to get very bullish, extremely bullish over the next few months. And even a blind chimpanzee would be able to sit down at a computer, press a few buttons, and probably make some money. It would have to be pretty unlucky to not make money over the next 2 to 3 months with any old thing. There's always going to be complete shit coins that don't make anything, but majority of the market should move as one, and the market does tend to point in one direction at the moment. And I'm not, obviously I'm talking the very short term. I am expecting a pullback, you know, but I'm talking long term, weekly charts. So over the next couple of months, you know, towards December and maybe into next year, you know, the blind chimpanzee should be able to make some money. So there's no reason, you know, why you wouldn't be able to either. But it does obviously require some planning, and this is my plan. I say this is my plan. And again, I'm not looking to alternate into altcoins and stay there and hope for the best and carry on forever. I'm looking for a micro rotation within a larger rotation. We're rotating now from altcoins into Bitcoin, generally speaking, and we should be moving up towards the 50 to 52% dominant zone over time. But this should offer a decent pullback. You know, so far it's been very bullish, more or less above the moving averages, and caught a bounce on the 10 exponential, which is a bullish place to be getting it. But you know, there's no reason why it can't break down from here to at least the 20 daily, or the 50 exponential, or the top of the cloud. It's still going to be a bullish uptrend with Bitcoin dominance, but with a very decent opportunity to rotate some Bitcoin into altcoins. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with you there. But if you want to join my Telegram, there's links in the description below. The Patreon's also there if you want to take it one step further and get access to the live streams twice a week. Otherwise, I hope you have a nice day and take it easy.